How are you doing? That's right. It's your boy, Ike, with Create or Die. And we're coming at you with another great episode full of creative goodness. Are you ready to get your Create on? Your CRE8 with the Cod Pod? That's right, Create or Die, the podcast. Let's do this. Now, today's episode is all about unleashing your creative genius. 5 secrets revealed. Now, whether you consider yourself creative or not, what we're going to be laying down here, these 5 secrets, these are for all y'all. Not just those of you who sit at a computer all day pushing pixels, or those who do it raw style and be painting the happy little trees. It's for all y'all. Even those of you who consider yourself not creative. Because what we're going to learn here is that's not necessarily a prerequisite of creativity. So let's count down these 5 secrets. We're going to start with number 5. And this time, they're in order of goodness. From slightly less as good to the goodest of the good, okay? That's what we're going to be laying down. And we've got quotes to back it up. That's right, I did my research. I pulled quotes from some of my favorite creatives out there currently and took all that info, put it together into something that I think has some legs. These 5 secrets. Secret number 1, okay? Creativity is a competitive advantage in any field. My boy Gary Vee says creativity is the ultimate competitive advantage. It allows you to differentiate yourself and stand out in a crowded marketplace. So whether you're actually in marketing, or you're an entrepreneur with a business, a startup among a sea of other startups, or you're an individual trying to gain that competitive advantage at your workplace. Number 5, Gary Vee has more to say on the subject. He says, creativity is the variable that separates good and great. It's the difference between copying and inventing, between following and leading. Now, Gary Vee, he's not a designer or an artist, but that boy is creative. He comes up with some crazy good ideas on how to leverage social and whatever. So that's why we've got 2 quotes from him. Okay. So speaking of creativity giving you a competitive advantage, I came across a post on LinkedIn today regarding Liquid Death, which is a beverage. It's just water. There's no alcohol or anything. You can get the plain mineral spring water or whatever, or sparkling water, which is, let me tell you, some of the best sparkling water I've ever had. And that's saying something. But get this, they've been genius, about their marketing in general. They talk about, their tagline is something along the lines of murder your thirst, because liquid death. But that's not it. Today, what I saw was, how in grocery stores, you're standing in line getting ready to check out, and you got your Cosmopolitan magazine, but they've got this black sheet of plastic in front of it, to keep young eyes from looking at the sensual covers, right? You've seen them. Well, Liquid Death did something similar in front of their cans. I assume like you go into 7-Eleven or Maverick is a big convenience store here in Utah. They place these plastic tabs in front of it that say not suitable for children and maybe some adults. So how genius is that? That's how creativity can give you a competitive advantage. And it's blowing up all over the socials. People think it's hilarious, and it makes them want to pay, $3 for a can of water. So that's saying something. Okay, that's number 5. Number 4, creativity connects unrelated ideas to create meaning. Okay? The most creative people are those who connect disparate ideas and turn them into something new and meaningful. Ed Catmull. Do you know who Ed Catmull is? He is one of the founding fathers of 3D visualization. He's Utah born and bred native, went to U of U, but most famously, he was the president of Pixar for I don't know how many decades. So yeah, Ed Catmull. Another quote here we've got is from Seth Godin. He says, "Creativity is about making connections that others don't see." Okay, you picking up on a theme here? And then another one from Ed Catmull. Creativity involves a large measure of original thinking, but not in the way people think. Originality is not just the ability to come up with something new and different, but also the ability to see what's already there with fresh eyes. So let's think of some examples. Now, apologize, this is one that just came to mind while I was putting my notes together. But Ariel, the Little Mermaid, to her, a fork is a dingle hopper. Something one uses to brush their long red locks. Okay, so that's her seeing something from a different perspective. Or if you look at a more sophisticated example, George Orwell's book Animal Farm. I remember seeing the cartoon as a kid and then later reading the book, or maybe vice versa, I don't remember. But essentially it's a political allegory where animals on a farm want to overthrow their human overlord. They're tired of being whipped or, just there to serve the humans. So the animals rise up and take over and create these 7 commandments that they start to live by. The pigs are the smartest, so they take those leadership positions. And to make a long story short, in the end, the pigs turn out to be even more oppressive than the humans. So there we go. Using that creativity to tell a serious story to help change people's way of thinking, and it can appeal to kids at the same time. So I hope those examples resonate with you. I'm not firing on all cylinders. Number 3. Okay, we've done 5, we've done 4, now we're on number 3. So we're at the halfway point. Creativity requires action, not just ideas. I love this one. Ed Catmull says this: the best way to get a good idea is to get lots of ideas. Okay? So that implies that it's collaborative, it takes a lot of work, and there is the potential for a lot of ideas. And then Chris Do, who's a design entrepreneur with 25 plus years of experience, cool guy, he says creativity is not just about ideas. It's about the ability to execute those ideas and bring them to life. Okay. Now, Gary Vee, you remember him. Creativity is not just about coming up with ideas, it's about having the courage to act on them. So, Christo, Gary Vee, I know Christo was a big follower of Gary Vee, so some of these things might sound similar, but at the same time, smart people think alike, right? And if you'll remember, if you look back to episode 23 of the Cod Pod, this was the whole topic. I posed this question or made the statement, ideas are irrelevant. And so if you haven't listened or watched that, go check it out, episode 23. Find it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the works. And I posted about this on LinkedIn, and a longtime designer friend and colleague of mine, Eric DeWall, commented on this post, and he compared it to American Idol and The Voice, saying that ideas are like good voices. There's a plethora of them. How many people do they send to Hollywood? Like 24,000? And then they whittle it down, right? It's a lot. And but what's missing is that work. Those who can take that good idea or that good voice and combine it with their ability to be present on the stage and project and overcome stage fright and really perform. And then on what we're talking about, the idea side of things, it's like if you aren't willing to just take that idea, good or bad, and start to move forward with something, then it's nothing. So creativity requires action. So that's number 3. Number 2, creativity requires courage and risk taking. You got to be willing to fail. You got to be, let's read a quote here from Gary Vee. He says, creativity, it's about hard work, persistence, and the willingness to fail. Christo says creativity requires courage. You have to be willing to take risks and push past your comfort zone. Ed Catmull says, when we give ourselves permission to fail, we at the same time give ourselves permission to excel. See, that kind of rhymes too. That's beautiful. And then again from Christo, creativity is a process, not a destination. It requires patience, persistence, and the willingness to fail. So that sounded familiar, right? It was similar to what Gary Vee had to say, but in the end, to really do something different, it requires a lot of courage, and you have to be willing to take a risk. And I really like what Ed Catmull says there is we have to give ourselves permission to fail. When you're trying something new or groundbreaking, there's going to be a lot of people that push back, don't want to do it. This isn't what we do. This isn't like Apple. This doesn't look clean. This doesn't use these friendly illustrations that we see on all of our competitors' sites. We want to be safe. But speaking of Apple and taking risks, they've done that a time or two. Most notably, their 1984 commercial.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the information purification directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
In reading a book, what is it, The Trillionaire's Handbook or something like that, the author, Coach, something, I'm just butchering this. He was paramount in creating this with their ad agency and different teams. And then they showed it to the board, and the board said, absolutely not, do not show this, throw it away. You know, we'd rather not run a commercial than show this. And this coach who wrote this book, who was, you know, in charge of marketing at the time, he was basically like, F it, just run it. And they did. And it was huge and made all kind of, you know, splashes on the scene and had an even more amazing effect than they would have ever expected. So there you go. Number 2, creativity requires courage and risk-taking, and it's not easy. Let me tell you, I'm definitely guilty of wanting to play it safe. You know, a customer, a boss, the CEO says, hey, I want this to look like Apple, or is real prescriptive of what this should be. And as a designer, it's kind of our duty, I believe, to inform that client, like, hey, I disagree. I think this is the way we should do it, and this is why. And, you know, depending on your relationship, you can push harder, maybe in some instances. But in the end, it's also my belief and that, you know, once you've made your case, it's the person with the money who gets to make the call. And so that's something I can work on and will always be striving to excel at. Okay, we're here. Number 1, secret to be revealed. Creativity is a learned skill, not a talent. Do you believe that? Christo says, creativity is not a gift that only some people are born with. It's a muscle that can be trained and strengthened through practice. Gary Vee says something real similar. Creativity is a muscle that needs to be exercised. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Seth Godin says creativity is not a talent, it's a skill that can be learned and practiced. So kind of 3 different sources saying the same thing. All of these very capable people agree that creativity is a learned skill. And I totally agree. Now, sometimes people confuse creativity with the ability to draw or the ability to match colors or pick out a cute outfit or whatever. And those things, they may be talents. You know, I think design is not necessarily creativity by itself. It's communication. And I believe that There are those who are just born with a good eye for design. But that'll only get you so far. If you're going to break outside of the bounds of what is just good design and come up with something that is truly creative, something you got to practice at, for reals. And sometimes the most creative solution is not beautiful. I remember hearing recently that Coca-Cola, for example, has tested this over their 100+ years in existence, where they've produced these amazingly beautiful, touching ads that win awards but barely move the needle on their effectiveness. Don't cut through the noise, if you will. Whereas the ads that are maybe more annoying or really different, those are the ones that convert and result in more sales of that delicious beverage, Coca-Cola. Yes, Coca-Cola. You want to be a sponsor of Create or Die? Reach out. We will take your money. We will take your beverages. Thank you. Oh, it must be getting late. Well, there it is. The 5 secrets to unleashing your creative genius. Let's recap real quick. Number 5, creativity is a competitive advantage in any field. Number 4, creativity connects unrelated ideas to create meaning. Number 3, creativity requires action, not just ideas. Creativity requires courage and risk-taking. And number 1, creativity is a learned skill, not a talent. So, take those knowledge nugs, put them in your pocket, read books, consume all you can, try new things, be courageous, and don't be afraid to let your creativity shine, whether you consider yourself a creative or not. I can tell you, you can make your weak things become strong. You can exercise those creative muscles, and you can take those ideas, inject them with some action, and be successful. Okay? So, that's my time. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Create or Die. And until next time, keep on creating. Create or die.